All right, let's talk about one of the most exciting and maybe one of the most frustrating electric cars on the entire planet, the Zeekr 001. Now, if you just look at the spec sheet, this thing is an absolute monster, a total world beater. But in the real world, well, that's where the story gets a whole lot more complicated. I mean, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures what this car is all about. It's the ultimate forbidden fruit, especially if you're in the American market. It's this high-performance, super long-range, gorgeous machine that is just completely, totally off limits. It's the dream car you literally can't have. And look, this isn't just some hypothetical daydream. This is the very real story of the Zeekr 001. It's a premium EV that comes from the Chinese auto giant Geely, and if that name sounds familiar, it should. They're the same company that owns Volvo, Polestar, and even Lotus. So they absolutely built the dream car, and then they put up a giant wall around it. So where did this thing even come from? Well, its backstory is pretty cool. It's the world's first mass-produced electric shooting brake, which is basically a super sleek, sporty station wagon. And even though Zeekr is a Chinese brand, the car was actually designed in Gothenburg, Sweden, right in Volvo's backyard. It even started its life as a concept for another one of Geely's brands, Lynk & Co., before Geely decided to spin it off and create Zeekr as their new premium EV powerhouse. Okay, so you've got this stunning Swedish design, but what about performance? Can it actually go? Oh yeah. Let's get into the specs, because the numbers this thing puts down on paper are, well, they're absolutely staggering. Right out of the gate, the standard all-wheel drive performance model comes with 536 horsepower. Now, just to put that into perspective for you, that's the same power you get in a brand new BMW i4 M50. This thing is seriously, seriously quick, doing 0 to 60 in just 3.8 seconds. But wait, because if, for some reason, 536 horsepower isn't enough for your grocery runs, Zeekr also built a limited edition version called the 001 FR. This is a quad motor monster pushing out over 1,200 horsepower. We're not talking supercar territory anymore. That is legitimate hypercar power, capable of hitting 60 miles an hour in just over 2 seconds. Insane. And what about range anxiety, the big EV boogeyman? Well, Zeekr had an answer for that too. They offered this massive optional 140 kilowatt-hour battery. With that, the car had a claimed range of over 1,000 kilometers on the Chinese testing cycle. Now, even if you adjust that for more realistic real-world driving, that is still a massive, class-leading number. So, you've got this incredible design, you've got hypercar-level power, and you've got massive range. It sounds perfect, right? Almost too perfect. So you gotta ask yourself, what's the catch? Well, as it turns out, there isn't just one. There are several, and they are huge. You know, the biggest problem with this car is something you'd expect from your $1,000 smartphone, not your $50,000 car. And that is rapid, almost planned obsolescence. That made a lot of the early owners furious. Just look at this timeline. In February of 2024, Zeekr launches a refreshed model. People are excited, they buy it. Then, just 6 months later, they announced the 2025 model, and it's got completely different, much more advanced driver assist hardware. So if you just bought the newest car, you were suddenly outdated. The backlash was so bad that owners literally protested at Zeekr's headquarters in China, demanding their money back. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This wasn't a mechanical problem. It was a fundamental breakdown of trust with their most loyal, earliest customers. It's exactly like buying the brand new iPhone, only to have them announce a way better one just a few months later, instantly cratering the value of what you just bought. So this whole let's release a new car every 6 months strategy, it created this huge cascade of problems for owners, hitting everything from their wallets to just their basic ability to get the car fixed. The first and most obvious hit was depreciation. I mean, it was catastrophic. When there's always a newer, better version right around the corner, the value of the older cars just falls off a cliff. We're talking early models from 2021 and 2022 losing 50 to 60% of what they were originally worth. That's a devastating financial hit. And if you live in the United States, this right here is the absolute deal breaker, the end of the story. Zeekr has no dealers, no service centers, no official parts network in the US. So if you do manage to import one, you are completely and totally on your own. The moment something breaks, it becomes the world's fastest, most beautiful paperweight. And that whole 6-month update problem, it created a permanent technological divide between the cars. See, the driver assist systems, the ADAS,
They rely on specific computer chips. Cars built before August 2024 use a chip from a company called Mobileye. The newer cars use a more powerful system from NVIDIA. And here is the absolute kicker: you cannot upgrade the old hardware to the new system, ever. You are permanently locked out of future software features. Oh, and the list of headaches doesn't stop there, especially if you're looking at a used one. In 2023, they swapped the motors out, which means there are two different part supply chains. The early infotainment software was famously slow and buggy. The air suspension is amazing when it's new, but it's a known wear item, and replacing it can cost a fortune. And frankly, the build quality on the very first cars from 2021 just had some teething issues that they sorted out later.
Okay, so we've just dragged this car through the mud. A lot of serious problems. But does that mean it's actually a bad car? Not exactly. Let's flip this around, because despite all those headaches, there's still a really strong case to be made for buy.
Yeah, despite the problems, the car itself is brilliant. That shooting brake design is gorgeous, and it's incredibly practical. It earned a top 5-star safety rating in Europe, which is a big deal. With a giant like Geely behind it, you know the brand isn't going anywhere. The build quality on the newer cars is excellent, genuinely on par with the Germans. That insane 001 FR is definitely going to be a collector's item. And, this is huge, in Europe, Zeekr uses the existing Volvo dealer network for service. That's a major advantage.
And this table really puts it all into perspective. Look, on paper, the Zeekr 001 wins or ties on power and range against huge names like Polestar, BMW, and Audi. It's a champion on the spec sheet. But then you look at those last two columns. US availability, a hard no. And service network, limited, even in Europe. That's the real story. It's a car that wins the battle on paper, but loses the war of real-world ownership.
So after all that, who should actually buy this car? Well, it's a very specific person. Step 1. You absolutely must live in a European country where Zeekr has official sales and service centers. No exceptions. Step 2. You need to avoid all the early models from 2021 to 2023. Just skip the early issues. Which brings us to step 3. The only ones to really consider are the newest cars with the updated NVIDIA hardware. That's the only way to future-proof your purchase as much as possible.
And that brings us to the final verdict, which, for the first time, is completely split. For that very specific European buyer who ticks all those boxes, it's a buy. It's a fantastic, advanced, and super stylish EV. But for any US buyer, it's an absolute 100% buy. It's a non-starter. Without any factory support, it's just an incredibly beautiful, high-performance paperweight. You know, in the end, the Zeekr 001 is a car of total contradictions. On one hand, it's this incredible piece of engineering that gives us a real glimpse into the future of electric performance. But on the other, it's a powerful warning about what happens when a company moves too fast and prioritizes rapid updates over long-term customer trust. And that leaves us with one final question. Is this car a brilliant look at what's to come, or is it a powerful cautionary tale?